Welcome on in, guys. Three bold takes again, and today we have the Music City Bowl. Auburn is very familiar with these bowls that are the Music City Bowl and the Birmingham Bowl because that's where they live. But here we are, Auburn and Maryland. Send those shots. Auburn and Maryland. Auburn comes in at 6-6. Maryland at 7-5. Auburn started or opened up as a 2.5-point favorite. Since then, Talia has opted out. Pineapple Jr. has opted out, and Auburn's now a 7-point favorite in the ball game. This should be a very interesting one. Auburn desperately needs a bowl win, in my opinion, to catapult them moving forward. Chase, actually, Quinn, since you refused to go first on the last video, I want you to go first in this one. Who do you have in the Music City Bowl between Auburn and Maryland?
Initially, I was very much on the Maryland train. I was like, how can anybody pick Auburn in this matchup? I thought Maryland was going to be able to stress Auburn defensively through the air. And I thought Auburn's offense is stagnant enough that Maryland would get out with a close win. However, with Talia Tagovailoa not playing in this game, that changes a lot of stuff. I think Auburn roster-wise is deeper than Maryland, especially on the line of scrimmage. I think Auburn has the edge at coach with Hugh Freeze, and I think Hugh Freeze understands that a win this bowl game means that the last two things that people saw you do was narrowly lose on essentially a Hail Mary to a playoff team in a rivalry game that you had no business being competitive in. Even though for anyone who watches the Iron Bowl in Auburn, that actually makes 100% sense. And then you win a bowl game against a Big Ten team. Like that would be how you end your year. That's people. I don't think anyone's gonna forget you lost to New Mexico State, but I do think that will kind of get. Think Nick Saban's first year at Alabama. I mean, they ended it by losing every game in November. To LSU, Mississippi State, Louisiana Monroe, and Auburn, and then won their bowl game against Colorado, and it sent them on a positive trajectory into the next year. I think that's where Auburn sits right now. So give me Auburn to beat Maryland. It is strictly because Talia's not playing. I think if Talia was playing, I would go Maryland, but with him opting out, I just can't do it.
Well, for me, I'm going to Auburn easy too. I actually don't like the QB play. Peyton Thornton hadn't really done too well this season, but also Maryland not having Tagovailoa is huge. He was the lifeblood of their offense. Coach Loxley, former Alabama assistant, brought Talia over there with him to kind of get stuff going, and that was a bread and butter was Talia for that offense. But with Auburn, if you watch some of the big games this year, the Georgia game, the Alabama game, there are a couple others if I looked closer at it, but definitely those two. Auburn switched over a lot of their offensive play calling to Hugh Freeze at that point. They looked a lot better in those games than they did in a lot of other ones. A lot of the other offensive games, they were very stagnant. They couldn't move the ball. But in those two games specifically, I remember watching both of those, and they almost couldn't be stopped against two of the best teams in the country, especially the two best teams in the SEC. So I'm going Auburn in this game. I think they show up. I think Hugh Freeze kind of puts a little bit of his touch on the offensive play calling in this game specifically. So I'm going to go with the Tigers as well. Freddie?
Yeah, I mean, it pains me to say this. Well, sort of. I'm going to go with Auburn as well. Sort of it's pity. I feel bad for how the Iron Bowl ended. Auburn fans desperately need a win to save their morale moving forward as well. And, for Hugh Freeze to come in year one and lose your bowl game and have a losing season, I don't think that bodes well for confidence-wise for him, especially at Auburn. But, yeah, their quarterback situation down there on the Plains is just atrocious. And they really need to figure that out moving forward. Otherwise, it's going to be a long next 2 years for Auburn. But I think they get the win against Maryland. So, yeah, let's see, 7 points now. I'll say they cover the 7 points. I've got like a 9-10 win, 10-point win here for Auburn.